Well, welcome, Kendall Young, to our class.
You know, the thing that you really need to know about me is that I am a Bruin. I am an alumni. I was last on this campus about 30 years ago. We won't talk about that. I actually thought about opening up with the UCLA fight song, but I figured you guys know that one, so we'll dispense with that. I've been a real estate agent for nearly 27 years, about halfway through my 27th year. Yes, I know I don't look old enough to have been in it that long, but I have. And when I started in real estate, fax machines had just come on the scene. We used to do our property brochures. We used to do those by Xeroxing them on the copy machine. And then we go down to the drugstore and we get copies of our little pictures and we glue them onto the pieces of paper to hand them out at their houses.
Forward.
Oh, wow. That's cool. That is excellent. Okay, so I can even like walk around and stuff. It's cool.
Okay, so you got till about 7:30 there, kiddo, and then we're going to do questions afterwards because Kendall's going to give her presentation. Whoops, she's going to give her presentation, and then we'll have plenty of time for Q&A. But she's got a lot of good stuff to share with you. Okay.
Okay. So in that time in being in real estate, I have been to a lot of conferences. I've talked to a lot of marketing gurus, and I've examined every single way I can think of to create business for myself and for my clients using any advertising medium possible. Now, I was at UCLA 30 years ago, and I got a degree in theoretical communications. Now, does anybody know what theoretical communications is? Yeah, it's not very practical. It's theoretical. I was studying how human beings use communication, spoken, written, video, however you want to do it, to influence others and how they make their decisions. That's what I did. That's what I studied. It's what I'm passionate about. So I would take a look at all these mediums, you know, fax machines, Xerox machines, and then when the internet came, it was this revelation. Oh my gosh, this is going to be great. I can talk to way more people than I ever could with my little newsletter that I was handing out door to door. And I'm going to be able to influence a lot of people to make decisions for my real estate business. So 2007 is when I started blogging, and I started coding websites about maybe 2 years after that. And I am an inveterate shiny object obsessive. I love every new thing that comes in. I try them all, and I try to figure out what is going to create value and engagement with my clients, because that's what we need, right? We don't need to get people to like us. We need to get people to be engaged with us so that they'll trust us, so that we'll do business with us. In every one of our businesses, that's what we're looking for in some shape or form, right? Okay, so here I'm going to be talking today about how I use social media and the internet in real estate specifically. So as I was researching for this particular presentation, I came across a presentation done by Bob Hoffman. Bob Hoffman is one of those veterans of Madison Avenue. He is the madman, although he doesn't look as good as John Draper. We'll try to get past that. But he is someone who has really studied the art of advertising. And in this presentation that he did just a couple of months ago at Adweek in Europe, he was telling his co-parts that because of the internet, the consumers are far more sophisticated than they ever were before. They have more information, have access to more data, and they are no longer going to fall for Madison Avenue bullshit. And that's what he called his presentation. Now, the part of his presentation that I really gravitated towards was the idea that every advertising medium should be used differently. It's a different way of communicating. It's a different audience. We've got to communicate a different way to get the effect that we're looking for. And what he was talking about is the idea that newspapers, advertising, radio, magazines, that is a traditional form of advertising, and there were methods that worked with that. But with the internet, it's slightly different. And he was making the distinction that what clients are doing, what our customers are doing, what the people we want to reach, what they're doing is they're forming their ideas. They're forming their ideas of what they want with the traditional advertising mediums, and then they're going to the internet to fulfill it. Now, this is kind of a chewy concept, and I figured, you know what? What's a better way to tell you guys how this is going down, but to, oh, you know what? We're not going to have this video because this is a PDF, isn't it?
Do you have a link?
Bonkers.
Do
Okay,
you have a link?
No, because I cut the video. It's a 45-minute presentation. So I cut it down to 2 minutes. So let me just kind of synopsize what he was saying. What he was saying, and he's an ad guy, so mostly he's talking about consumer products, but I thought that it had some relevance even for service professions such as my own, where I'm really trying to create trust rather than sell a widget. What he was saying is that for magazines, television, radio, and newspaper, the consumer is going to those and they're picking up information about what they might want to acquire, what they want to buy, right? But when it comes to actually doing it, they're going to go to the internet to research something they've already decided they want. They want fulfillment. They're not going to create demand on the internet. They're going to go to the internet for fulfillment. So let's think about the example that he used. It's good that I've seen this presentation like 20 times. The information that he used was the idea that you decide that you want to go to, say, Italy. So that's really good. You want to go to Italy. You probably saw some magazine ad. No, it's a really beautiful place. But the internet is where you're going to go to figure out your flight times, what attractions you're going to go to, what's your itinerary, what cities should you actually go and visit, and how are you going to arrange those. So the internet is great for fulfillment. And so I thought, what a great way to sit there and say, all right, all of us want to be in business or are in business. How do we use this essential idea that the internet is not to create demand? We're not going to just take what we did on newspaper advertising and transfer it over to the web. How do we use this idea that the consumer wants fulfillment to our advantage? So in order to explain to you how this works, I wanted to take you into an idea of when you know you want to move, okay? Everybody goes through life transitions, death, taxes, marriage, divorce, kids. These are the things, upswing in your economy, downswing in your economy. These are life forces that lead you to the idea, I want to move. That's the demand. How do we fulfill that? So I wanted to kind of give you an idea of how it has always been. It has always been that we had what I call bricks and mortar business, traditional business. And this is where you would find a real estate agent through stuff that's basically face-to-face, belly-to-belly. Okay? You saw them in the community, you went into their office down on the street corner, you saw them at open house, you saw that they had for sale signs in your neighborhood. That's how people traditionally, or you talk to your friends and neighbors, that's how people traditionally would find the real estate agent, fulfill that need. However, the real estate industry has a belief, they have a fear, quite frankly, that what's going to happen is we're going to have a click economy, and all of these needs will be fulfilled on the web. And what's interesting is that my industry really feels that it's going to be a bricks must die in order for clicks to happen. It is a bricks versus clicks. But my industry has a tendency to be very self-serving. We have a tendency to look at ourselves, not so much on our consumers. I don't know if that's the same in your industries, but this is what I think. I think that the consumer is actually looking at it as all of the stuff that they had been doing to identify how they're going to fulfill their need, I want to move, and they're going to layer onto it everything that they can get onto the internet, and it's that intersection where bricks meets clicks is the opportunity for my industry using the internet to try to fulfill demand. So I wanted to kind of give you an idea of the cycle of how business happened traditionally. Traditionally, you would meet somebody face-to-face, belly-to-belly, out there on the street, community meetings, open house, going into their office, and then if you liked them, you would go and do business with them. And if the business went really well, you would refer them to your friends, family, and colleagues, who would then go to meet you, and the cycle would start again. This is why when you talk to real estate agents, they will tell you that the majority of their business is repeat and referral. They're nothing special. That's how it happens in my business. So let's talk about the brave new world. What happens now that the consumer is going to intersect, layer on the information they get on the internet? They're going to meet them still in all the traditional ways, and there is a fractional percentage at this point that might meet them in a social media circle like Facebook or something like that. Then, if they have an interest, they will now go online to check out that real estate agent, see if they're really worth anything. If they like what they see, they'll move on to doing business. If the business goes well, they'll refer them to friends and family, who then might choose to meet them and the cycle starts again. But it gets a little bit more complicated from there. Because the online world is out there, what might happen is instead of the referral going to a direct meet, what they might do is go directly across to checking you out online. And if they don't like what they see, or even worse, they don't see anything at all, they might not call you, and that is business that will be completely lost and you didn't even know about it. it can get even a little bit more complicated. When somebody is doing business with you, what is a possibility that they might be talking about that experience online, and people that they know might be taking a look at that experience, right? In my business, you know, from the point that I take the listing to the point we close escrow is at least a 60-day period, okay? In that 60 days, those people might be saying, hey, look at the house that I bought. They might be talking about their experience, their frustrations, their joys, things that they're excited about, but they're talking about it. What are the chances that their online friends are following this journey along with them? Pretty high. Now, is it possible that some of those online friends might have some real estate need of some sort, right? And what is the possibility that their friend is doing business with me, so maybe we should check her out online? And if they don't like what they say, or even worse, they don't see anything at all, the answer might be no. And again, how much business is lost simply because there's not an image online? I think this has relevance for all of our businesses that we choose to get into. Our consumers are going to be checking you out online. If they don't like what they see or there's nothing at all, boom, you're not getting the call and you're certainly not getting the business. So when I talk about leveraging online, I'm really not talking about some super sexy platform that's going to make business rain down from the sky on your head, or hiring some marketing company that you can just pay $29.95 to and they're just going to do everything for you automatically. What I'm talking about are some very basic, make sense ideas that is going to leverage how the consumer is actually using the web, not how you want them to use the web, not how some guru is telling you they use the web so they can sell you something. This is what the consumer is actually doing. They're checking you out. So I think that first and foremost, you need to be visible. Second, you need to make sure that you understand how reviews work and why they're so important. And third, I want you to think about controlling your image. So many small business owners have no idea that what they do personally is a direct reflection of what they do professionally. So I'm going to talk about all three of those pretty quickly. So be visible. The first thing that I like to tell people is you should Google your name. How many people do that on a somewhat regular basis? Ever? Well, you guys are sophisticated. You're not the normal audience. When you Google your name, what I really want to see is that you are findable by Google, number one, and that when somebody clicks on some kind of web collateral that you have that Google found, that people are going to be able to contact you. A current phone number, a current email address, a current bricks and mortar address, something that will allow them to contact you. You would be surprised how often in the real estate business this basic. Probably all of you are sitting there going, well, duh. But most real estate, not most, many real estate agents are not findable by Google. What I recommend, if a business person is not findable on Google because you just haven't invested in getting your image out there, it is not necessary for you to go run out and find a web designer, pay him $10,000 and do some fancy dancy website. Okay? You can do something really simple and easy called about.me. This is a landing page. A landing page is a simple one-page website that lives within a whole domain. And it allows you, by giving the unique URL, oh shoot, that's right. So right at the top, that's my URL. It's about.me/Kendall Young. And that means that Google is going to find me. Somebody puts in Kendall Young, my about.me page is going to pop up. Well, I have a lot of web stuff, so it'll be on the second page, but it's there. And I have right on the top my name, a current phone number, a little paragraph about why somebody should do business with me, if at all, and at the bottom links to my web collateral, some of it anyway. And this is a great way for somebody to get a little snapshot of who I am and why they might want to do business with me. If I had nothing else but that, that would be a great start for how the consumer is looking to fulfill their demand of finding a real estate agent. The last thing that I want to talk about in being visible is filling out your profile. Boy, does this sound like a really obvious thing, right? I mean, you're probably expecting thunderbolts from the sky, but this is important stuff and many people don't take the time to do it. In the real estate industry, there are two types of profiles. First is your social profile. Facebook, LinkedIn, Google, Yelp. These are free for you to fill out the profile. Facebook in particular is pretty sneaky. A few years ago, and you guys probably know about this, a few years ago, they actually wiped your personal data and they replaced your personal email address with a Facebook email address. right? Yeah. So if you haven't checked your Facebook profile in a while, you need to, because your contact data is not there anymore. You need to put it back in, okay? Google is another great place to do that. Yelp. If any of you have bricks and mortar businesses, if you're actually doing product selling of any sort, Yelp is a fantastic place to make sure your profile is there, because that's where your consumer is shopping for you. In the real estate industry, we have professional profiles. You may have the same in your industry. For me, it's the multiple list. That's the place where we put all of our properties for sale. I'm always astounded when I come across a real estate agent who doesn't have their phone number on the multiple list. Really? How am I supposed to find you so I can give you an offer on your listing? Your company's site. If some of you are going to be going to work for larger conglomerates and you have a business within a business, you may be given a website within the company website. I'm astounded how often people ignore these opportunities and don't fill out their profile to be contacted. Your parent company is going to spend a whole boatload of money attracting traffic to the corporate website. Once they land on your page, they better be able to find out about you, be able to contact you. And the last one for us is Zillow, Trulia, and Realtor.com. These are the major real estate portals. And this is where the real estate consumer is starting their search for a home. Okay? So in each of your industries, identify where that consumer is going first. It might not be your website, probably isn't your website. Find out where they're going first. Make sure you're findable on that particular website collateral. The next thing I want to talk about is controlling your image. And remember at the top of the presentation I was talking about how as small business people, we have a tendency to forget that our personal information, our personal shares, our personal social footprint is part of our professional one, by and large, unless you really understand Facebook security and how to hide stuff from the general public. In general, what you put on your personal profile is going to filter out to your clients who are looking to research you and figure out whether or not they want to do business with you. So you better control your image. You better understand that just because it's on your personal profile does not mean it doesn't impact your business or your brand image. So I want you to be current. Now, I kind of think this is endemic to just the real estate industry. Real estate agents are always very body conscious. We want to make sure we look good. We want to make sure we're attractive. And so what happens is this. They take a picture, you know, sometime in the 80s. It was the last time they really felt good about how they looked, and so they kept the picture, even though that was 30 years ago and horribly fast and tragic. I'm sure that none of you are going to do something this egregious, but make sure that your stuff is current. If you've got offices, make the office current. If you have staff members, that you have bios, make sure that that's current. Just make sure that you don't set it and forget it for the next 30 years. I also want to caution you against avoiding, I want to caution you to avoid mass-produced stuff. Now, I'm figuring that you're in this class because you're probably small business owners like myself. And most small business owners are everything. We're the janitor, we're the cook, we're the marketing department, we're the legal department, and we're also trying to be experts at whatever it is we started our business for in the first place. It's a heck of a lot for any human being, and in any way that we can take some of that stuff off of our plate, free up some bandwidth to actually make money, we're going to do it. And so we are prime targets for your basic gurus who come to you and say, I'll tell you what, you give me a check for $29.95 and I will send out, without any involvement on your part, this postcard that is going to make business rain from the sky. Don't buy it, it's not going to happen. Now, it used to be that any kind of marketing that you did, the thought was that a touch was better than no touch, right? So any kind of crap you want to send out is acceptable in the eyes of the Lord and your God because it was a touch and it had your name on it. This is really common in my industry. I don't know if it's common in yours, but to send out a helpful postcard or email to let people know that they should set their clocks back. Now let me ask you a question. I'm a real estate agent. I send this out to my clients. What does this piece right here, what does it say about my expertise as a real estate agent? Anything? No, it doesn't. What does it say about my ability to represent a seller or a buyer in the transaction of a house? Nada. What does this say about my expertise, about my community, about my place? Butt kiss. Okay, what does this actually say? It says, I have no time to think about my business. That's what it actually says. It says, I don't care about my business enough to actually produce a piece of content that's going to show you why you should hire me in the first place. See, here's what it really says. It says, I don't care about my business, and guess what? I'm probably not going to care about you either. So, mass-produced content is worse than nothing. Now, if you do need to do something like this, because you can't think of something better to do, then at least make it personal. If you're going to do a fallback, set your content, then take a picture of your area, take a picture of your staff, take a picture of your office, take a picture of something, anything that says something about your business and who you are and where you are and what you do. Okay? So avoid mass-produced stuff. Last thing, a lot of gurus, a lot of teachers out there will tell you that the way you need to create business in social media is you need to produce content. You need to write, right? Have you ever gone and tried to figure out, okay, that is an ideal example of peer review. So reviews are extremely important. It's important to all of our businesses, and as social media matures and the consumer uses it more and more for the research and fulfillment, reviews are going to get that much more important. So in my space, in real estate, here's what I talk about. I think that you should ask for a review after every transaction. Actually, you should ask just before the transaction has completed, because it's at that point that your customer is most engaged with you, most likely to take the extra step to post a review. They're most wanting to please you because they're pleased with you. Okay? So ask towards the end of every transaction, whatever that looks like for you. Where you post the review is important. Okay? And I think it'll get more and more important as this space matures. In my industry, Yelp and Zillow are the two most important places to post a review. And the reason for that is the hardest places to post a review. Yelp, as you might know, will suppress. It will hide a review if you join Yelp and only do that one review for your friend, the real estate agent. They'll just hide it, so it's a waste of everybody's time. So you only want to have people who actually use Yelp and write on Yelp give you a review there. And Zillow will actually verify what real estate transaction you did with that realtor before they will publish a review. So those two places are the hardest place to put the reviews, and therefore the consumer trusts those two places the most. You'll need to do the research in your industry as to where that place is for you. That's where it is for me. The other thing that I can tell you is the number of reviews actually matters. Zillow has done several studies, and it says that if an agent has 10 or more reviews, their likelihood of engagement is something like 75% more. So having numbers of views are important. And the other thing that I want to let you know is that don't be afraid of the negative review. I'm not talking about the troll who's trying to hate on you. I'm just talking about somebody who said something that's less than kind, less than beautiful, less than 5 stars. The presence of a review that is not quite 100% glowing gives credibility to all the other glowing reviews. Without it, the consumer is skeptical. They're like, who did they pay? Did they get a bunch of people from Fiverr to write that review? Don't do that, please. Never get reviews done by Fiverr. The other places that I can put reviews would be Google, Trulia, my blog. Those are other places that you can place them. The key is have them, have a lot of them, and make sure they're visible and findable. Lead generation is something that Beverly wanted me to talk about, and lead generation is a little bit tough in my space. In my opinion, what I'm doing as a service professional, it's a trust relationship where I get my engagement, where I get my, return on investment is by creating relationships, not necessarily lead gen. However, the lead gen space is growing in my industry. So let me tell you a little bit about it. I think it's the ultimate in direct fulfillment. Most of what I've been talking about up to this point has been the idea that somebody says, gee, I would like to move, I need to find a realtor, how do I do that? But there is a second fulfillment that that person wants, and that is a house, right? They want to buy a house. So lead generation is all about the direct fulfillment of helping them find a house to buy. 96% of all real estate searches start online, and 46% of all the buyers who found the house they actually bought found it themselves on the internet. Not the broker showing it to them, not going to open house, not even seeing it in a house. They found it by searching on the internet. So it's huge in my business, searching for houses. So you've seen these guys, right? Everybody know about Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com? Yes? No? Some blank looks. These are the major real estate portals in real estate. So if you're looking for a house and you wanted to see, gee, I wonder what's for sale in my zip code, you're going to wind up at one of these portals. There's actually something like 358 portals, but these are the back daddies. And these are lead generation sites. They sell advertising space on these sites to bring business to moi, if I pay them a price. So here's what I've learned about lead generation. And I studied the space for 2 years before I jumped into it because, well, I'm kind of a skeptic. Actually, I'm a big skeptic. And I didn't think that that really held any value for the consumer. But I've decided that it does if it's done in a very specific way. How is that way? It's a numbers game. Okay, so let me explain to you how it works at Zillow. And maybe this will have relevance in your particular industries. Zillow is going to advertise all of the houses for sale that's on the multiple list, same information I have access to, and they're going to advertise within a certain zip code. So my zip code is 91208, okay? And let's just say that there's 1,000 impressions that are made on any house in 91208 in a given 30-day period, okay? 1,000 impressions. That's 1,000 people looking for houses in 91208. Of those 1,000 people, something like 950 are tire kickers, looky-loos. You know, there's a reason why HGTV is such a fast-growing commodity. We love looking at houses. So 950 of those are just, you know, they're just passerbys. They're entertainment, okay? So that leaves 50 people who are actually thinking about buying or selling. Of those 50, probably 35 to 40 of them are thinking about doing something, but they're thinking about doing something in the not-too-distant future, anywhere from 6 to 18 months. So that leaves like 10. Let's just say 10 because I like round numbers. That leaves 10 who are actually looking to do something now. That is a really, 1,000, 10. I'm not a math whiz. Mr. Darknet could tell you what the percentage is, but it's really small. Okay? So if you're going to buy a percentage of a zip code in Zillow, which is what they allow me to do, I can buy a quarter, a half, 3/4, or a full of a particular zip code, then I am only going to get a certain percentage, a random percentage of those 1,000 impressions. Now, if only by a quarter, which is what most real estate agents do because we're cheap and we don't like to spend a lot of money. If I only spend a quarter, which will cost me anywhere from $258 a month to about $480, depending on what market you're in, then I'm only going to get 250 impressions. And what are the chances that one of those 10 will be in that 250? Again, Carl could tell you I can't, but it's really small. I mean, tiny, infinitesimal, like not worth my money. So in the lead generation game, in my opinion, and I've been studying this pretty hard, it's go big or go home. If you're not going to go big, don't do it at all because the space isn't mature enough for that. There's not enough concentration in quality leads in the lead generation out there. They're there. They're just not very concentrated. The other thing that I learned, and this is really key for me, is that the internet customer has the attention span of a nanofly. I mean, it's ridiculous. If you're going to do lead generation, you need to be prepared to give a quick, relevant, and skilled response. Okay? It's got to be quick. It's got to be fast. It's got to be relevant. You can't answer the question with some automated drip that has nothing to do with what they're looking for. And it's got to be skilled. They don't want to talk to an unpaid intern that you got from high school. They want to talk to somebody who knows what the heck they're talking about. Okay? It's got to be quick. Got to be relevant. Got to be skilled. Did I say quick? Quick, like less than 20 minutes. Anybody see the movie Devil Wears Prada? Yeah. Right, or read the book? I love the line, 1 million girls would kill for this job. Okay, well there's like 10 million real estate agents who will gladly take that phone call if you don't have time to answer that phone. So you've got to really be prepared and have the systems in place to be able to respond to those internet leads when they call. Last one, don't mistake a first date for a marriage proposal. What does that mean? I don't know, this might not have relevance to your industry, but it's really relevant for mine. So somebody goes into Zillow and they want a particular data point. I would like to know if the backyard is big enough for a pool. Very clear-cut data point. So they type that in there, and the real estate, and they're just thinking, I just want this data point. That's all I want. I want to buy a house. I want to see a house. I just want this data point. Okay? The real estate agent, though, is sitting there going, oh, I got a lead from Zillow, and they're going to buy a house for me today. So what's really happening here is the person who put that inquiry into Zillow, they're not even ready for a first date. They're actually just kind of looking to see if you're available for a date. The real estate agent, they thinking they're getting in between the sheets and they're getting a home run that day. A little bit of a disconnect, right? A little bit of a disconnect. So when you are doing lead generation, it is vital that you understand the headspace that your client is in when they send that lead into you. Real estate agents, not so good. You guys will do better, right? Promise me? Yes? Okay, good. So, content creation. Again, I heard Beverly say this. You guys have blogs. You're concentrating on delivering great content, being of value. Bully for you, that's awesome. It's not easy to do. Very few people do it well. So if you're doing it well, you're awesome sauce, okay? What I've learned that content creation is something that I call inbound marketing. I learned that from a company called HubSpot, which is kind of the king of inbound marketing. And what inbound marketing is anything that establishes your authority, your value, your reason for being for a particular client. It could be ebooks, it could be market reports for me, telling people what their house is worth, whether the market's going up, going down, what's the velocity, how to or frequently asked questions, posts or videos. I do a lot of video, or community or lifestyle posts or videos or content. I do a lot of that kind of stuff. This is an example of some of the inbound marketing that I've done in just the last few months. Right over there is an ebook that I did to help buyers figure out how to buy. It's not one of those namby-pamby roadmap things that just is cutting the surface. It's actually a book of strategy, what works in this challenging market. Up at the top is a video that I did for Porto's Bakery in Glendale. If you've never been to Porto's, you are missing out. People come from all over Los Angeles, right? To get Porto's cheese rolls. That's all I gotta say to you, cheese rolls, man. It'll change your life. Anyway, Betty Porto was kind enough to give me a tour behind the scenes at Porto's, and I was able to make a great video. It's an awesome way to showcase my community and what's special. And then at the bottom here was a slide deck that I created giving my predictions for what the real estate market in Glendale and La Cañada was going to do in 2014. So this is inbound marketing. I can put it on a number of different platforms. I repackage it, I tweet it, I Facebook it, I send it out in e-blast. It's kind of the gift that keeps on giving. I can keep using this collateral in a number of different ways once I've created it. Relationship management. So my business, I'm a real estate agent. I think you kind of got that message. I am in the people business. I'm actually not in the house business. I'm in the people business. It's all about people, which means it's all about relationships. And I would submit to you that that's the same for probably any of you in any of the businesses that you get into. Ultimately, it is about the relationships that you make, create, and leverage for both benefit. Okay? So how do we use social media and the internet to manage our relationships? I use Facebook a lot. I actually love Facebook because for me it is the ultimate conversation and engagement tool. So I think that Facebook is phenomenal, not for broadcasting how great I am. I am great, but I don't need the broadcast. Nobody needs to hear that. What I need to do is I need to listen. I need to listen to what the people who are important to me and my market are saying. I use Facebook lists to do that. I have lists of past clients, people who are in my neighborhood, and I also have lists of, that's Facebook. Also, Facebook groups are really dynamic for two-way conversation. Now, what's the difference between lists and groups? List is just me taking a whole bunch of people, putting them on, well, a list. Like it's like a personalized news feed. You can look at it that way. And I can scan this, and I do this 2-3 times a week. I scan through a list, and I look to see what my past clients are talking about. What's important to them? And how can I engage them in conversation about things that are important to them? And it's that relationship, that two-way conversation that I'm looking for, but I need to be able to keep track of that because there's a lot of noise on Facebook, right? A lot of noise. I need to keep it down to what's important to me. So I have these lists so I can be focused on that. Facebook groups are self-formed groups. So a really great example is neighborhood groups. I belong to a group called the Spar Heights Neighbors Facebook group. 732 people who love to talk about lost cat, lost dogs, unwanted exercise equipment, and why the heck is that police helicopter up there again? They love talking about this, but along the way, they're also talking about neighborhood issues that are important to them, what's going on in the school. They're asking for referrals for plumbers, electricians, real estate agents, places to live. And this is a fantastic way to be part of a community that is far beyond who I could meet face to face on a given day and be relevant in their lives as I participate in conversations, giving out referrals for plumbers, helping to find a home for a dog. I haven't done that yet, but I will someday. I found a dog though once, so you know, it's part of it. And generally talking about what's important to them, being engaged with them. And along the way, they get that I'm a real estate agent and it's a trust relation. They know me through that group. And when I see them online, when I see them face to face at an open house, there's a shared relationship that started on Facebook. And so this is a really great way to listen and engage, create relationships. The last thing I want to talk about is CRM, Customer Relationship Management, CRM. Hot topic in real estate and probably everywhere in business because no CRM is perfect. They all suck in one way or another. I used to actually develop databases, so I didn't think it was that difficult, but it really is. And the database that I'm using right now is called Contactually. This is not an industry-specific product. You can Google it and take care of it right now. What I like about Contactually is that the purpose of a CRM is to figure out how to make money, right? It's not good to just have a Rolodex that just sits there and does nothing. So Contactually is very good about helping. They have an algorithm. I do have to put people into what they call buckets. And they use an algorithm to each day surface 5 to 10 people that I need to get in contact with that day. And what I like about Contactually is that they surface 2 or 3 people every day that it would not have occurred to me to call. It had not occurred to me to put in some kind of a reminder. And it allows me to further relationships that maybe if I hadn't had those reminders, I would have let lie fallow and then beat myself up when I find out their house has been listed by somebody else. So Contactually is my current favorite as a CRM. And it doesn't do any good to have a CRM and then do nothing with it. This is just a way to remind you to call them on the phone, send them an email, pop by their house, or send them a written note. How do you like that? Snail mail? Well, that's really king right now because nobody's doing it. So send them a handwritten note, some way to contact them. Contactually reminds me to do that. It gives me the opportunity to do that. Communicating, so very, very important. Now in real estate, again, I find that our industry is really good broadcasting, really good about bragging about ourselves. We want to talk about our open houses, our just listed, our just sold, our satisfied clients, and to say, if you know of anybody who wants to sell their house, please have them call me. I'm ready for listings. I think that we should communicate, and I've talked about Facebook, I've talked about being at open houses. Email, in my opinion, is actually the most effective social media communication there is out there. I know email's not social media. Yeah, it is. It is. I'm sending out a message, they can send it back to me. This is a two-way conversation. This is social as far as I'm concerned. Email is still the #1 way that I create engagement in my business. I love Facebook. It's great for meeting people I don't know, but email is the best way right now for me to talk to the people that I do know. And here's what I have to say about email and email blast, mass email. First of all, I'm not buying it from a mass marketer. I create it myself. Well, actually, Hannah creates it. She's like my guru. It needs to be consistent. We send our email out on Friday evening, every Friday, unless we have nothing to say, because it's better to say, nothing if you've got nothing else to say. Right? But it's consistent. It's almost every Friday. It's always in the late afternoon, because that's when my metrics have shown me I get the highest open rates. The subject line is critical. How many people have 3,000 emails in their inbox? Am I the only one? Okay, right? Okay, we have email fatigue. And how are we going to figure out which of those 3,000 emails you're going to open? Because you're only going to open 5. And that is that subject line. So the subject line has to be utility. It's got to give them something that they don't already have, okay? It's got to be curiosity. It's got to entice them saying, don't you want to know what the most expensive home that sold in Glendale this week, okay? It's got to be curiosity, it's got to be utility. What was the third one?
We always forget.
We always forget it. I'm going to say it's humor, because I'm kind of humorous and I like humor. But it's got to be something that attracts their attention and makes, gee, I don't have more than 30 seconds. I'm going to open up this email. Of all 3,000 emails, I'm going to open this one. Subject line is how that happens. Next, I think it should be gorgeous. Actually, it's got to be one or the other. It either has to be plain text, really simple, really short, or it's got to be freaking off the hook, amazing. I use a lot of imagery, a lot of pictures in my business. My emails are fantastic. So we want to make sure it's gorgeous so that people actually enjoy getting them, enjoy looking at them. And the last one is individual. Our email abilities have gotten so sophisticated. In my mass emailing program, I have people divided up into all kinds of lists that I can mix and match at will. And so we have the ability, for example, to send out an email to just the people who live in this zip code and send a different email to just the people who live in that zip code. The more individual you make your message, the more effective and engaging and valuable you will be. And that's what we want to be, effective, valuable, and engaging. Because if you're not, you're going to get deleted without even being opened. Okay? So that is email. Beverly asked me the question, what platforms do you use? Well, I love shiny objects. Every time a new platform comes my way, I'm going to try it, I'm going to work with it, I'm going to figure out how to make it valuable to my clientele. So I try everything. I would not encourage you to do that. Do not, well, I don't consider it a mistake. I love doing it, but I don't think it's a good use of everybody's time. What I use on this list to actually make money is my Facebook personal profile, not my business page. We all know about Facebook and how they're suppressing everything. Although pay to play is not that unfair. Really isn't. So I'm experimenting with Facebook ads. But my personal profile, since I am my business, I'm the thing, I use my personal profile to engage with my audience, create value, and to send the message that I do have something to give. So Facebook profile is the best for me. Instagram is probably my next favorite platform. I think it says a lot about my community, my expertise within the community, and people want to find a realtor who is an expert in their area. My lead gen site is new. I've only had it for 60 days. We're going to talk about that in just a second. But those probably are the three that I use. I think that it's very important that you not get overwhelmed using a whole bunch of different platforms, especially if you're trying to do it all at once. Sheer path to failure. Sheer path. I see new real estate agents doing it all the time. Pick one, anyone, I don't really care which one. Do it really well. Measure, decide what works, and then repeat. If it doesn't work, find a new one. Master it, go again. Okay? So don't try to do them all the time, all at once. Okay. Results. Results are really, when you asked me that one, I wanted to go, I don't want to talk about results. It's so hard to measure. I know you're an analytics guy. It's so hard. I don't want to do it. I just want to do my thing. I don't want to talk about results. Here's the thing about real estate, and it might be the same for you. In my business, I really have a hard time understanding where a client actually made the decision to hire me. Was it because they saw my sign in the yard? Was it because they talked to a neighbor who had done a successful transaction with me? Is it because they saw a blog post and they thought it really moved them and gave them some value? Is it because of a postcard that I sent? Truth of the matter is, it might very well be all four of those plus the two others that I don't even know about. So in my business, the path to actually getting business is part of a layered system. And I've been doing this for 27 years. You start something, that's looking pretty good, you keep that, you layer on something else. Next year you layer on something else. At this point in my career, I got more layers than princess cake. So I don't know really the individual, the one thing that actually did it. But I can say to you that the effect of social, since I've been doing it, since about 2007, is that I attract more of my ideal client. The person that calls me is much more likely to want exactly what I have. I mean, I'm an awesome real estate agent, but I'm not for everybody. You know, I really am not. There are people who find me that I talk too fast, I joke too much, and they want somebody who wears St. John suits all the day. So I'm not for everybody, but I attract more of my ideal client when they come to me and they ask me if I could represent them in a buy or a sale. I have pre-established authority. Now, I am way older than I look. You've probably guessed how old I am, but many people think that I'm, maybe in my 30s. So being of authority has been a problem for my entire career. And now that I have social media, and now that people get a sense of who I am before they meet me, there's a pre-established authority that I didn't have before. Very, very valuable to converting a contact into an actual business. I have an 80% increase in my listings. In my business, people start as buyer's agents. That's the easiest business to get. That's where newbies always start. As I've moved from number 11 in my marketplace to number 3. I'm really proud of that one. Number 3, really the only thing that I've done different, other than get older and more experienced, is social media. So I think that it has great ROI, because I can't tell you that one blog post equals $6. I can't do that. Lead generation is a little bit easier. Lead generation is actually very, very specific. This is attracting people that didn't know me before, probably outside of the area, and so the only real contact they have with me is my lead generation site. And I have contracted with a really big site. Remember, go big, go home. I've decided to go very, very big. And here's what I have gotten in the last 60 days. I've only had my lead gen site for 60 days. I'm getting about 12 signups a day. That is somebody who said, I will give you my name, my email address, and possibly my phone number in exchange for being able to use your website to search for houses. So 12 signups is pretty good when they could just easily say click and go to Zillow and not have to do anything at all. So 12 signups a day, 30 connections made. What's the difference between signups and connections? Connection means that the people are willing to engage with me in a two-way conversation about their process of buying a home. So this is where that relationship is started. 30 connections is thrilling in 60 days. I can't get that many connections holding open houses, and I have regularly 200 people in my open houses, so that's thrilling. And the last one is I have had one major listing taken, which is about to close escrow in 10 days? Yeah, in 10 days. So that is phenomenal ROI for what I have spent so far on lead gen. Great results that come from really thinking about how we're going to use it and to leverage each platform the way I want it to. So that was my presentation. If you want a copy of this slide deck, you can send an email to online@glendalediggs.com, and you'll automatically get a slide deck of my presentation.
Wow.
All right.
So, Kendall really did a great job of, first of all, that was absolutely fantastic, right, you guys? Did everybody get a lot out of that? I saw people taking copious notes, so I'm really glad to see that. A couple of things that I want to just really emphasize here. A lot of the things that Kendall talked about are things we've been talking about in class, about listening, that it starts with listening, and then you enter the conversation. And what I think was great about what you've shared with us tonight is finding those specific places. Notice also that on the list of sites she uses is there's no Twitter, there's, you don't go everywhere. You go where your customer is, right? So that's a big part of what this is about. Anybody have any questions or thoughts or comments for Kendall while she's here? She's an expert. This is your chance.
Just so you know, Facebook, that's where Ma and Pa Kent are. They're not on Google+, they're not on Twitter, they're not on Instagram. So, the idea of knowing where your customer lives, absolutely critical. And as we said also, most of you, how many people in here want to be a real estate agent? Nobody. But does this apply to you? Honey child.
Does this apply to the business that you're going to be involved in? Does this apply to any business? Absolutely. Yes, Nicole.
When you were talking about being visible, you said that we should look into the social profiles and the professional profiles. And you had LinkedIn as a social profile. For me, it's more of a professional profile.
Well, when I did that, I was thinking more in terms of real estate agents. So LinkedIn is a social profile because it's not specifically for real estate agents. That was really what I was talking about. Yeah.
How do you use LinkedIn?
I don't. I think if you go to my second level of connections, I have like 13 million connections. It's kind of crazy. I have my blog, and when I had a life, I actually wrote quite a lot on my blog. So I have my blog that syndicates straight over to LinkedIn, and I go in there about once every 3 weeks and I try to accept all the invitations. And I clear out all the spammy messages, of which there are a phenomenal amount. And then I puzzle over the people who have given me recommendations for, say, expertise in selling golf property. I've never sold a golf property. I don't even know where there would be golf property. So LinkedIn, for me, not so much. In my opinion, LinkedIn is pretty much B2B, business to business. That's really the major relevance of that. I've heard that real estate agents are getting great traction if they're involved in discussion groups in LinkedIn, but that's just like any other group. You get involved, the more you put in, the more you get out, right? But B2C, which is what I'm interested in, I'm interested in the conversation business to consumer. Mom and Pa Kent aren't on LinkedIn, and that's who I want to sell to.
Next week, we will have a LinkedIn guru coming to talk to you. A guy named Neil Schaefer. I'll send you some information on him. He's published a couple of different books. He's going to be here to talk exactly just about LinkedIn and what it is and isn't and what all the changes are, etc. But I think that's a really good, what Kendall is giving us is a really good assessment from her vantage point, right? Which is what you have to do when you're doing social. You asked a great question, Nicole, though, is what constitutes a social site versus what constitutes professional versus whatever. You get to really define that, I think. I think 2 points that Kendall made, if I'm accurate, Kendall. One is that what you do on sites that you think are just between you and your friends bleed into everything, because everything comes together in terms of the internet, okay? So don't think that there's a wall between, oh, I'm just talking about partying with my friends on this site, nobody's going to know. It might bleed over, so be careful there. And number 2, know where you're going to get the most bang for the buck in terms of where you want to put your energy. And I think that's a great answer. A group is a group, whether it's a Facebook group, a LinkedIn group, a Pinterest. Pinterest is doing some amazing stuff now around all kinds of add-ons to their services. So wherever you're going to invest the time, just do it and make that investment so that you're building up the credibility and authority. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yes?
It's a very simple question, but how do you find time? Because as a real estate agent, you obviously have to show houses. Is it commercial real estate or regular?
I'm residential real estate.
Okay,
Yeah.
residential real estate. So
Yeah.
you have to find time, and then you also do, as you said, a certain amount of social media sites. So how do you find time to do all that? It's time management, I understand, but
Yeah.
how do you do that?
Time is my bitch. I need to do what I want to do. It's easy to find the time to do something you feel passionate about. I go through stretches where I just don't sleep much. And it's not an owner's thing, it's not work to me, because I'm discovering what I can do, what I can make. When I was learning how to do videos, when I was learning how to do screencasts for education, I do a lot of videos to teach my clients how to go through the contract and whatnot. Learning how to screencast, I might be up until 1 o'clock in the morning. It's fun for me.
You just said you have a routine. For example, Fridays you send out the email. Right?
Yeah, the
So
actual execution of the social, first of all, you have to have a Hannah, and you can't have her because she's mine. I could not do as much as I do without great staff, without great people who are doing what they're good at doing, not making somebody do something they're not good at doing. And so being able to delegate, and for me, I can't delegate until I know how to do it. So yeah, that leads to 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. But the actual execution is on Hannah's head for the most part. And she also doesn't sleep very much. And we have this routine, and we're always evaluating our social media checklist. What happens when we take a listing? There's this ginormous checklist. Yeah, it's a ginormous checklist, and it takes her a long time to move through all the items on that. And about once every 2 or 3 weeks, I'll sit there and I'll go, okay, what is it that's not working? What do we need? Because I'm always putting things in. So we have to evaluate what should we take out. Social media, you guys know this. I know you know this. The landscape is changing well, it's different now, right? Every 5 minutes, every couple of weeks, the landscape changes, not only in the tools that are available to us because Facebook changed something, Twitter putting in a new, whatever, Pinterest has now decided they're going to make everything really findable with consumer goods.
Yeah.
Right, with the new search, our location, put it on a map, right? So not only are there new toys, new shiny objects that are coming out every couple of days, but the way the consumer is using it is changing at a phenomenal pace. So if you aren't evaluating what you're doing, there's no set it and forget it, no more. You know, leave those to the oldie moldies. That's not you guys. You guys are dynamic. You guys are with the change. You're evaluating what you're doing, measuring it, figuring out what's working, what's not, move to something else. Pivot is what we do.
Hi. So I think it's Trulia Zillow, the rental site. I met someone, a realtor, who said that came across someone impersonating him once.
Yeah.
Has that ever happened to you because of the ease of creating a profile, or are there any other negatives?
Well, you know, evil lives everywhere. And the more ways that we have to market ourselves and to promote ourselves, the more ways there are for people to take advantage of that and use them for their own nefarious purposes. I could frost some of your hairs on some of the frauds that are out there, some of the scams that are pretty common. The short answer is no, because if I were able to fix that one, I probably could. 2 minutes from now, somebody's going to come up with a different hack, a different fraud, a different way. And I think the best way to look at it is, you know, stuff happens, and keep your nose clean, and make sure you're monitoring yourself. You know, have a Google alert for your name if you don't. You need one. Yeah. Yeah?
What's the recommendation you have for promoting this owner or real estate agents if you don't have the scale of income?
Can you repeat that louder?
Yeah.
Yes. What kind of recommendations would you have for a small business owner or real estate agents who still don't have the biggest sphere of influence?
Oh, okay. So you want to know how you can make contacts. How can you build a business? Okay, yeah, that's the class I'm going to teach next year. No, I'm just kidding. It is the holy grail. It is, and I think that it also has relevance, again, for all of our businesses. How do we start from ground zero and build a book of business? Build raving fans. Build people who are interested in your business with us, okay? And I can give you the old school. The old school says that you should take a look at your address book, your Christmas list, and make sure that you contact each and every one of them, letting you know that you're now in business and you're ready to deliver value. That's the old school. Another way of doing that is to start getting into the idea of putting yourself out in social media, not broadcasting that you're in real estate, but finding conversations where you can insert yourself and be of value. But honestly, the real answer is you're probably not going to like it very much. The real answer is to figure out how to get to be an expert in what it is that you do. You know, most people want to do the business first, and they figure, well, I'll just practice while I do business, and that's how I'm going to get to be an expert. Yeah, it's the way my industry is. I'd really like to change that in real estate in specific, and maybe that has relevance for the rest of you. But what I really think you need to do is to find some way that you can mentor with someone who really does know what they're doing so you can become an expert. And what will happen from that is that you will have more confidence to contact the people you know, as well as more confidence to create opportunities in the conversations that you have on a day-to-day basis at the dry cleaners, waiting in line in Starbucks, or wherever you happen to be. I've actually been in coaching for 14 years to learn how to make contacts, and it's not easy. It's a skill, it can be learned, it takes discipline, and it takes a fire in your belly to really make that business work for you. That's the real answer, but it's not a magic pill. Sorry.
Anybody else?
Okay, well, one other thing I just wanted to point out is that the dynamism that Kendall has comes through in the post that she has, and I don't really have an example up to show you right now, and it might be Hannah's voice that is actually capturing Kendall's voice that are in the post. I don't know.
No, I read all my own stuff.
Okay, so your own stuff is great because it's exciting, it's personal, so I think what you've done is it's a very personal business.
That's right. You wanted me to talk about like the okay. So he asked me to talk about this particular Instagram post that I did. What's common in the real estate business is they'll put on Facebook, I'm holding an open house at 1234 Dream Street. Come and meet me. It's a great house. Yeah, nobody wants to see that unless you're actually looking for 1234 Dream Street. Nobody cares. So what I try to do is I will post something about my open house, but I'll try to make it interesting. And the particular one that he was talking about, I acquired some new tech. It's really sexy. It's It's a stand, I don't think I can show you a picture of it. It's a stand that holds my iPad, and it looks like it's straight out of Star Trek. I love this stuff. And it's very touchable, so people want to look at it. So what I did is I was at open house, and I'm one of those realtors that pulls out no stops. And so my Facebook post was cookies baking, check. iPad ready to go, check. Lights on, check. Music going, check. All right, we're ready to go. And it was a picture that I took from down here. Great angles on my front. From way down here, and it was of this Morphe iPad stand straight through this really cool remodeled kitchen. You know, and I put some cool filters on it and a few hashtags. But it's something that's different, and people are like, cookies. I like cookies. I'm only a block away. I'm gonna get me some cookies. And so that's, but it's that type of thing. Don't do the also ran. If it's an easy post to make, don't make that post. Really. Take a couple of seconds to think about it. If nothing else, think about it in terms of what would you like to see? What would entertain you? What would make you curious? What would be interesting to you? Because I don't think most real estate agents know how to do that. They're only thinking about what's going on in their head.
Okay, well, let's give Kendall another round of applause. We are going to take a break in just a second, and Kendall's going to stay for a few minutes, and you can come down and shake her hand and get to know her a little bit. But before we break, here are the lists for all of your projects. I haven't finalized everything. Everything looks pretty good, but there's a couple of changes. Dennis, have you figured it out with your team? Okay, good. So you need to, if you need any final changes, you need to make them. I'm going to finalize this. Whoever put their names on Dennis's list, he needs to talk to you. And
so the two people that put your names on Dennis's project, please see them at the break.
Dennis, what? Last name?
Dennis, your last name?
Okay. Yeah, and if you, so make your changes, visit with Kendall, and we'll be back at 10 after.